but I first want to share with you that I recognize that I'm a child of privilege. My family was not wealthy, but my parents always pointed me towards college. And I think that in today's world, if we don't acknowledge where we came from and what benefits we accrued from that upbringing, then we're not doing a very good job of starting on our path towards making a more just and civil society. So given that, and given that my family my father was in the military, he was an armed forces officer in the Air Force. So we traveled quite a bit, but family was always here in Eastern Washington. My grandparents lived in Newport, as a matter of fact. And so when he retired, we moved back to the Spokane area. And I went to high school at Riverside High School, which many of you may be familiar with, just a little bit north of where we're at here in Whitworth. I graduated when I graduated from high school, I did not immediately go to college. Instead, I chose to marry my high school sweetheart. And we spent a few years after that doing a number of things, some of which included post-secondary education. We both went to Spokane Falls Community College. And he went on to Gonzaga with an Army ROTC scholarship. And I followed him, of course, as an Army officer's wife, which really was my first calling. And I must say that I enjoyed it and I did it very well. But we made a choice after his 4 years of tour was up that my education was just as important as his. And so we returned to Spokane and then subsequently to Seattle so that I could attend school at the University of Washington. I've always been interested in chemistry. Ever since I was a little girl. My mom was a medical technologist and worked extensively in the chemistry unit at Sacred Heart Hospital here in Spokane. And so I majored in science at Spokane Falls Community College and went on to a chemistry degree at the University of Washington. My grades and my work at the Falls gave me the opportunity to have a scholarship at the University of Washington, which was of great help because that allowed us to be students in the campus area without having a tremendous amount of difficulty. Nevertheless, I still had to work full time while I finished my degree. And that was not trivial. I needed to work at least 35 hours a week during the school semester and a full-time over the summer and vacations. I was working at the time at Environmental Analytical Testing Laboratory, Analytical Resources Incorporated. And it was a great experience because that got me started on a real analytical chemistry career. So we were doing a regulated environmental analytical testing for a wide variety of facilities and organizations across the Washington state and also the Pacific Northwest. At ARI, I had an opportunity to really see what a career field in analytical chemistry looked like. And that was an emphasis of my focus at the University of Washington. But I also had an opportunity to do some undergraduate research in the lab of Isiao Packer. And Professor Packer got me started on working with fullerenes, C60 and C70. I had a great time working with Mike Corey and Greg Spiritus in Dr. Packer's lab, where we separated C60 and C70 from a raw material batch using liquid chromatography. And then we also did several molecular modeling studies to understand the highest molecular orbital and the lowest molecular orbitals of the C60 molecules, which look like a cage if you haven't already seen them. I had an opportunity to present that undergraduate research, and part of the benefit of that was having some nice experience and a professional poster on my resume when I sent it out for jobs just before my graduation, which that was the end of 1993, I think. Fortunately for me, I had an opportunity that my resume attracted the interest of the metabolism team at Pfizer Central Research in Groton, Connecticut. And they were interested in me, not just because I had an analytical chemistry background, but also I had had an opportunity to work with animals in a couple of jobs previously, one working on a farm for thoroughbred racehorses, and another job working for a veterinarian. And in late 1993, I had an opportunity to interview. They flew me out to Groton, Connecticut, which is quite a distance away, in a winter snowstorm. And I must have impressed them somehow, because they certainly gave me an excellent opportunity to start work there in January. So we moved between Christmas and New Year, 1993 to 1994. And I started in early January 1994 in the drug metabolism group doing pharmaceutical research. Now, drug metabolism, for those of you who don't know, is the study of how the body interacts with a new chemical entity that's proposed as a drug candidate. So there are two ways to look at a medicine. The first way to look at it is, what effect does it have in terms of treating the disease? And the second way to look at it is, what effect does it have in being cleared from the body when given as a medicine? And that's the science of drug metabolism.